the hearing?
Well, they're joining in on the meeting here, and what we're going to ask is that you indicate in chat that you would like to speak, and then Tricia would, I guess, unmute them, and then they would speak one at a time, obviously. So are we at? We got a minute.
I wonder if do I butt up to their property now that I'm thinking I see Sam?
Yeah, you do.
I don't know. I didn't receive anything. Maybe it went to the farm.
Okay, well, I'm going to call the September Planning Board meeting to order. And the first item up is our public hearing to discuss the Petumtuck, I messed that up, didn't I? Petumtuck Family Farm Special Permit hearing. So, let's see here. So if in the chat, if you're here for the public hearing, oh, one thing I forgot is that, yes, we are continuing to do this remotely as per the governor's executive orders, which was continued in Executive Order 202.60, I believe, to do this remotely over Zoom, etc., in accordance with the regulations that have been set out. So if in chat and you would like to be heard about this application, can you indicate, and then we will have you speak.
Okay.
Who's this,
I
Samantha?
have a question.
Okay, Connie, state your name and.
All right. Name's Connie Kiefer, and my address is the 546 Prospect Hill Road. So I was just curious about the timing of this project.
Chairman, if it's okay, I could share my screen. I can give a brief presentation if you like, and be happy to try to answer any questions. My name is Jan Johannesson from Kellard Sessions. We're the design engineers for the project. I'm here tonight with my client, Nick and Cricket Hammerschlag, and the project architect, Armand DBAs, is also on with us, as is Cynthia Filkoff, the project architects. If it's okay, I'll share my screen and just.
That's a good idea. Do just a brief, two things actually. I almost forgot. So yeah, give a brief description of the project just so we can refresh everyone's memory. And also, while some members may engage in a dialogue, the usual format of a public hearing is for you, for the members of the public to be heard, but it's not. We might not necessarily engage in a dialogue with you at that time, but we will hear your comments. But but we may. So okay, go ahead, Ken.
Sure, thank you. Again, Jan Johannesson from Kellard Sessions. The property is owned by the Petumtuck Valley Farm Trust. It consists of 130 acres on Prospect Hill Road. Also has frontage on Chase Road. It's located in the rural zoning district. It borders Columbia County to the north. It's within the Dutchess County Agricultural District number 21. The property consists of active farmland as well as about half of it being forested. There's an existing farm road off Prospect Hill Road that provides access through the property off Prospect Hill here where my mouse is. There are some streams on the property and wetlands that my office has located. Zoom in here. The light pink areas are regulated, are wetlands regulated by the Army Corps. There's a stream along the western property line and what I'll call an intermittent channel that bisects the property. And we've identified the 100-foot town setback off that stream. The client, the applicant's proposing to construct a single-family home on the property up here along the northern property line at a high point, and is also proposing an accessory dwelling adjacent to Prospect Hill Road. Timing-wise, to construct the accessory dwelling first, and then occupy that while they finalize the designs and construct the main residence, and then afterwards this building would be used as like a caretaker's type situation for the family, not to be rented. The principal residence hasn't been fully designed, but we expect it to be about 6,000 square feet in gross floor area. The accessory dwelling, which we're before you tonight for a special permit, has been fully designed. We can run through those architecturals in a bit. It's proposed to be a 4-bedroom residence with a detached barn. The main residence will be approximately 2,550 square feet, not including the basement, which will be finished. The basement's approximately 950 square feet. So the gross floor area, approximately 3,500 square feet, which is 59% the size of the main house. While the principal residence is permitted as of right, the proposed accessory dwelling requires a special permit under your code, section 275-56D. That section, or one of the subsections, restricts accessory dwellings to no more than 1,250 square feet. However, the code allows the planning board to increase the allowable floor area up to 75% of the principal dwelling. We are seeking that waiver. As discussed, the accessory dwelling is approximately 59% of what we expect the main house to be. The owners would like to construct and occupy the accessory dwelling in advance of constructing the principal residence. Again, this will allow them to move into the property fairly quickly as they continue to design and then build their main home. We're targeting commencement of work on the accessory dwelling this fall. We've already made application to the health department. They've reviewed the application. We're addressing their comments. We probably will resubmit to them next week. And we have received approval from the highway superintendent for the driveway location. Let me just go through the plan here a little bit. This is the overall plan. Shows the approximate location of the main residence, the accessory dwelling, and the driveway, common driveway connecting the two. That's all been or will be designed to comply with town driveway standards. When we presented to the board last month, our original plan was to have the cottage up front. This cottage, or the barn, accessory barn building, is about 204 feet from the front property line in this scenario. The cottage setback a little bit further, and then the septic is on the side of the driveway. In this scenario, the barn is located within that 100-foot setback off the stream. And after kind of further evaluating things, the owner's kind of wishing to push that back a little bit further. And I did present to you an alternative at the last meeting that showed that, which we've now further enhanced. So this pushes that, it's the same scheme, locations relative to the cottage and the barn, but it gets pushed back about 115 feet from the original proposal. And you can see this red line is the 100-foot setback off the stream. So we're pushed up pretty close against that as far as we can, providing some room for grading and drainage. The septic stays in the same location. So we just felt putting the buildings further away from the road would be advantageous to everybody involved. So this is the plan that we submitted to the health department. This is what we're proposing. This is what we're seeking approval on this evening.
Okay, so thank you for that. If we can get back to the regular screen.
Sure.
Okay, good. So back to Connie now. So your question was as to in what way regards to the timing?
Like within the next year, or with all the COVID stuff going on, I wasn't sure what kind of timing would be impacted.
Yeah, we're hoping to seek building permits and start construction late this fall, this construction season.
Okay. I do have one more question, and that is the runoff into that stream. How is there going to be any impact to that stream that goes under Prospect Hill Road and then goes back out again?
We're proposing to capture and treat all of the runoff from the roof of both the house and the accessory building. And we've evaluated the soils for stormwater infiltration. We've been providing some Coltech infiltration units subsurface to capture the stormwater runoff from the development. There would be no discharge to the stream whatsoever.
Okay.
Thank you, Connie. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? If you could either tap the raise your hand button or indicate in chat. No one else is looking to ask questions? There's a lot of people here.
Well, I'll ask a question,
Well,
if I may. Talked about this, the primary residence being on a high elevation on the property. Could it be construed as being on a ridge line?
It's definitely on top of on top of a hill. I don't know that it's on a ridge line per se, but it's approximately 100 feet higher in elevation than the road, I would say. So it it follows a farm road up to the top there. But whether it's a ridge line, I couldn't say.
Right. Because our zoning law really says one of its goals is to protect ridge lines. And I was wondering, perhaps Kate, do you know this property well enough to know if this would, I mean, the ridge line is really not defined in our zoning law. It's more of a concept, but I'm just wondering if this house is going to stand out and break a ridge line that would be counter to what our zoning law is looking to protect.
I mean, you could see it from like the farm, but I don't think you could see it from any.
From any highways?
No, because it would be from Prospect Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, and that house that has the windmills and stuff is up much higher than that one would be, I would think.
there are also a lot of trees on the property. So the house wouldn't even show from Chase Road, for instance, right?
I wouldn't think so. Okay, I just wanted to raise the issue.
Okay, when you said you could see it from the farm, is that looking down at that property, or is that actually higher?
I kind of feel like it looks across at it. Does anyone? Oh, like it's I don't.
Depends on where you are at the farm.
Yeah, this is Nick. I don't think, I mean, the intent is actually for really no one to see the house, other than perhaps, houses that are of a much higher elevation. And so I don't think it will be viewable.
Like, can you see Ronnie Brook from there? You just see a lot of stuff. That's what I.
Yeah, we can see Ronnie Brook from the lower fields, but based on the way it's currently situated, no, we can't. There's
All right. Well, as far as the public hearing section of this, is there anyone else from the public that wishes to have a statement or ask a question? Because I'm about to close the public hearing portion.
Yeah. Sorry, Kyle has a question.
So I had one question.
Kyle.
Hi,
There's Sam Free.
Hello.
hi. So we're at the bottom of the hill, and if I'm understanding the engineer correctly, half of that lot is in agriculture now, and if the smaller house and the septic field chew up, how much of the agriculture land is that going to chew up in total? And then how much will actually stay in agriculture? It doesn't look like the big house affects any of that, but it certainly looks like the small one and the barn and the septic will. So just curious.
so anything that is currently actively farmed, we are leaving as active farmland. The front fields, I guess you could grow hay, and maybe they have in the past, but it doesn't look like anyone is using them now. But we're disturbing as small of a footprint as possible. And I'll let Jan comment on the exact square footage or that is being disturbed.
Yeah, the exact square footage or our limits of disturbance is approximately 65,000 square feet. So just over an acre,
Okay.
130 acres.
So that's it. That's the house, the barn, the whatever parking area, and the septic field.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Jan, do you have a figure on how much of that 130 acres is farmland?
No, I don't have an exact number. I suspect it's approximately half.
The reason I ask is it was brought to my attention that there was something in the town zoning about not taking away active ag land that's being farmed, and this seems like maybe that could be that situation, but I'm not 100% sure. So any clarification on that would be great.
I mean, personally, I didn't see any provision in the code that would prevent us from building a home on agricultural land. I think siting the home is important for a lot of reasons, and the preservation of farmland around it is obviously important, and that's what we're trying to balance here. Trying to take up a small of a footprint in the agricultural portion of the property, and having the remainder of that still actively farmed.
Okay.
Thank you, Kyle.
All the way.
Anyone else with any questions or statements?
Yeah, I had one question. We have the property across the street.
And your
And-
name is, sir?
Matt Cicchetti. So the only comment I had, I'm generally in favor of it versus a subdivision, which could be potential. Would be the septic system for the secondary dwelling. Would that be possible to be moved on to the right side of the driveway or not? And that's more of an engineering question.
Yeah, that was our first first thing we did was we conducted a lot of deep hole and percolation tests throughout the property. And obviously we would like to locate the septic system there because it's closer to the house and it'd be less costly. But that is the only location that we were able to get percolation. The other side had a lot of modeling. I think it's more influenced by groundwater. We'd have to bring in a lot of fill in order to get a septic to work there.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt. Anyone else looking to ask a question or make a statement? Going once. Hope whoever that is okay. Okay, I'm going to then call on end. No, we need a.
Yeah,
I need
I'll
a
move
motion.
we close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Second,
Any members not in favor of closing the public hearing? All right, let it be known that the public hearing is closed, and I appreciate the members of the public that have showed up and added their questions and comments to the to this application. At this point, only members of the board will be speaking, and anyone else who's not here for an application that is before the board should log off, and you guys can watch it on YouTube. Next, so Warren, you're here, correct?
Yeah, I had to shift the locations of my house to get, but I'm here now.
Where are we at with this, and how do we proceed?
Well, the only issue that I'm really involved in was the issue of the fact that our zoning law has a couple of provisions in it which seem to indicate that you don't build an accessory structure, accessory residence until you have the primary residence built. And we discussed a way of allowing that to happen through a stringent resolution. And I spoke to Drew about that, and he's in accord with the solution that we've come up with. Basically, I prepared a resolution which provides in relevant part that it's a conditional special permit approval where you're permitting the accessory dwelling to be constructed first with the requirement that the primary dwelling as located on the plans be built within a period of 2 years from the date of the resolution. And then once the primary dwelling is then constructed, the dwelling that will be constructed first would become the accessory dwelling, and the other dwelling would be the primary dwelling. And that would seem to satisfy the requirements of the of our zoning code. I have had experience in doing this in another municipality, and it's worked quite well. So if you're in accord with that, you would consider the resolution that I prepared, which basically says all of that. I hope you all got copies of it. I sent it out today.
Yeah, it should be in everyone's email. It was forwarded.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone have a chance not to look over the resolution? No? Good. Warren, is there anything to that? One of the members of the public mentioned about the agricultural lands.
No, it's not relevant to this application. It's the conversion of agricultural land comes into play when you're doing subdivisions and larger scale projects. That wouldn't prevent somebody from putting 2 residences on a single parcel of land, provided they comply with the zoning law.
Okay. Board members, does anyone have any comments or questions, or what are we thinking? Are we,
I think it makes a lot of sense, and we shouldn't spend a huge amount of time on something that on the face of it looks quite acceptable.
The only question I had is on the seeker. Did we determine at the last meeting that it was a type 2 action, or did we state that it was decide that it was an unlisted action? I don't recall.
I think,
unlisted, I think we said.
yeah, I think so too.
What?
You stated in the draft that you worked up that it was a type 1, I mean, a type 2, right?
No, in the draft, I think I said it was it should be, I think it's an unlisted action. Yeah, that's what I stated. But if we decided at the first meeting that it was a type 2, which it could be, then we could eliminate the reference to seeker in the resolution.
I thought we determined that it was an unlisted action. Did we not?
Okay, so if it's an unlisted action, it's better to be safe than make a mistake. That's the way I've drafted the resolution. I've also provided you with a part 2 of the short form environmental assessment form, in which I have reviewed all of the questions and answered them subject to your approval. So if you want to go over those questions and make your own determination, that would be fine. And I've incorporated a seeker negative declaration in the resolution if you decide to pass that tonight.
Okay, let me pull that up. I had one question that came to me as I was just thinking about this. Now, what happens if they build this thing, the main residence, like halfway, and then the two, how is this agreement, if it's not completed or something goes wrong, where does that end?
Well, then what will happen is that the residence that's been approved tonight and constructed initially would be the only residence permitted on that property. So there would not, a building permit could not be issued for the secondary residence unless they applied to the planning board or the zoning board for further relief.
Okay.
First, they could always subdivide that very large lot into 2 and build a house where they want the main house. So I don't think we should encourage splitting the property because it would, we don't need as many lots on the property as possible. So
Yeah, they could do that. I spoke to their attorney, the applicant's attorney, about that, and they were considering that and decided not to go that route. I think
this is much more
for the
simple.
town, this is better. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. So I don't think we should spend too much time worrying about when they're going to get the second house done.
Well, we put a 2-year time limit, which I
Right.
was told
That's
by the attorney
reasonable.
that would be more than enough time for you to get it done. If for some reason you run into difficulties, you can always make an application to the planning board for an extension. So,
Okay. So, all right, so now we go through the part 2 of the EAF then, the seeker, correct?
I think for the record, you should do that, considering that we determined it to be an unlisted action.
How to do this? I guess, and we'll do it like we always do it, and just speak up if you have an issue with one of the questions. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
No. We'll interpret silence as no to all these questions.
Okay.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of the use of land? No. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? We'll take that as a no. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No, there's no CEAs involved. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level or traffic or affect existing infrastructure from mass transit, biking, or walkway? No. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? No. Well, beyond, I guess, just what's needed for the houses. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? I would say no. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? That would be no. Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? I would say no. Will the proposed act beyond we talked about the stormwater runoff already, from the building of the houses. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. No questions were answered to be moderate or large impact. So therefore, we are making a negative declaration. Correct, Warren?
Correct.
We don't have to, I mean, we voted we don't have to vote, right? We just.
I know, you have to just sign that, and then that's in the resolution, actually, so.
Got it. Okay, so next, shall we then move on to the resolution? Anyone have any objections to reading and voting on the resolution?
I think there was one typo that was caught by Peter. Which paragraph was that, Peter?
It was first line on page 2.
Yeah, it was first line on page 2. It needs a verb. I think it was approves, has to go somewhere. I don't have my change in front of me, but it says whereas something, 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 and there's no verb, so it needs one.
Oh, it's the very first line.
Yeah.
Whereas Pocumtuck has requested that the planning board, the construction.
Oh, I
of the-
see it. Yeah,
So,
approved. Should be
approve.
approved in there, so let's add that.
Where would that be then? Oh, yeah, I see it. Wait, the second one has,
The first line on the second page.
was requested that the planning board, approve, yeah. Okay, so. Town of Pine Plains Planning Board, resolution granting final approval with conditions to the application of Pocumtuck Family Farm Trust for special use permit and site plan approval. Whereas,
One question, did we, was this site plan approval also? Yeah, okay. Because all special use permits have to have site plans, so, okay. That's why I drafted it like that. Sorry, go ahead.
that's okay. No, want to make sure we're right. Whereas Pocumtuck Family Farm Trust, further known as Pocumtuck, has proposed to construct a single-family detached residence and separate accessory dwelling and associated ancillary structures on their property located at Prospect Hill Road, tax parcel number 711-435 in the town of Pine Plains. And whereas both the primary residence and accessory dwelling will be served by individual private potable water wells and septic systems. And whereas both residences will be assessed by a single accessed by a single shared driveway off Prospect Hill Road. And whereas Pecumtuck has made application to the planning board for a special use permit to allow construction of an accessory dwelling on said property. And whereas Pecumtuck is desirous of erecting the accessory dwelling first and proposes to occupy the accessory dwelling while the principal residence is thereafter constructed on the said property. And whereas Section 275-19A of the Town Code provides in relevant part that accessory uses shall not be established prior to the establishment of a principal use. And whereas the definition of accessory dwelling in the Town Code provides in relevant part that the accessory dwelling must be clearly incidental and secondary to an existing single-family detached dwelling on the same lot. And whereas Pecumtuck has requested that the planning board approve the construction of the accessory dwelling first, which shall be deemed to be the principal dwelling on the property until such time as the principal dwelling on the property is constructed. And whereas Pecumtuck has advised the planning board that it is its intention to move expeditiously with the construction of a single-family dwelling on the property, and whereas the planning board has determined that this is an unlisted action under seeker, and after review of the short environmental assessment form, the project does not have the potential for significant environmentally adverse impacts. And whereas the planning board scheduled a public hearing for September 16th, 2020, and opened and closed the public hearing on that date. Now therefore be it resolved that special use permit approval is hereby granted to Pecumtuck to construct the accessory dwelling on the property before construction of the principal dwelling unit, and be it further resolved that this approval is conditioned on the principal dwelling to the property being constructed with a certificate of occupancy issued by the Town of Pine Plains building inspector within 2 years of the date of this resolution. And be it further resolved that in the event the single family dwelling is not constructed within the said 2-year time period, this approval shall be deemed rescinded, and the accessory dwelling shall thereafter be deemed the principal dwelling on the said property. And be it further resolved that this action does not have the potential for significant environmental impacts, and that a draft environmental impact statement need not be prepared. Okay, can I have a motion to pass this resolution?
So
So
moved.
move.
Second?
All not in favor of this resolution passing as read?
No, I think you have to have everybody in favor, ask if they're in favor.
All right, everyone sound off. Let's start with,
It doesn't have to be a roll call, just, I
all
thought,
right. Well, everyone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let it be shown that the motion, all opposed? Let it be shown that the resolution is passed unanimously. And that's that.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Good luck.
thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you all. Appreciate your work and your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up on the agenda, I believe, is the Johnny Cake Hollow discussion of a sketch plan.
Yes, that's me.
Hello, and I guess if you can introduce yourself and
Sure.
and-
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tracy Altman. And I guess just to summarize, my husband and I, my husband, David Berger, and I are in contract negotiations to purchase 2 contiguous properties at 82 and 86 Johnny Cake Hollow Road. And before moving forward with the purchase, our architect, Doug Larson, had suggested that we apply to the planning board for a review of and for feedback on our sketch site plan for the larger parcel, which is 86 Johnny Cake Hollow Road. That parcel is 8.54 acres. It's in a rural district, and there is a 1,524 square foot historic farmhouse that dates back to, we're told, to the 1720s. And our plan is to build a new principal residence that would be about 2,500 square feet. And to have the existing home, we'd like to restore it and to have it deemed an accessory dwelling. Currently, it is about, I mean, if you take the square footage as being the gross footprint of the house, it's about 60% of our envisioned new residence, although it is slightly larger than the code requirement that it be only 1,250 feet, square feet. So we would need a waiver of that requirement. So I guess what I'm hoping for today is an indication of whether this plan is feasible and guidance on what steps we need to take to get the approvals and permits that we'll need.
First question, now, is that farmhouse, that's like an occupied dwelling, usable dwelling as it currently is there? Or is
Well, there are two parcels that are owned by the Potters currently, and each parcel has an old home on it. So they are living in the home that's on the property that's 82 Johnny Cake Hollow. And this one they kind of used for napping, working, but it is a habitable residence.
And are you, well, what, you're looking at buying both of them?
Yes.
Both?
Mhm.
And what would happen with the 82 then, the other one, the one that's not this one?
Well, I guess that would also be an accessory, well, not accessory because it's on its own lot, but we'd like to fix, our main priority is to build the new house. And if we can rehabilitate the old houses, we'd like to use one as a guest house and maybe one as a studio.
You're keeping the parcels separate. So
Yeah, because otherwise, I spoke to Drew Weaver, who originally I thought maybe we should combine the two parcels, but then we would need permission to have two accessory dwellings. And he suggested that that would be a farther fetch than asking for one. I mean, we may need to adjust the lot lines in terms of where we want to site the new residence, but you know, we'd certainly abide by the zoning requirements.
I can't imagine that with a pre-existing historic house, I don't even know whether you need to go to the ZBA to have a variance issued. Warren could speak to that, but it seems to me, since it's already existing, and you wouldn't certainly want to cut down the amount of square footage in the house,
right?
Whether it would even need a variance. Warren, you?
Okay, I have to disclose that I have a conflict here. I represent the Potters. So
They want to sell their property.
So I don't want to queer the deal, but by the same token, I don't want to do something that's creates a conflict. If Drew could respond to that, I'd feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I'm happy with Warren. I'd be happy to. I don't think a variance would be necessary, Jane, because the planning board has the waiver ability for that square footage.
Yeah.
So
You're
you guys
right.
have the authority to do that. This is very similar in a lot of senses to the last thing you just did.
I agree.
So, I mean, I would look at it in that respect.
If you would, are you intending to build the new house within a 2-year time period?
Yes, definitely.
Well, why not then have the same kind of wording and
Well, technically, they wouldn't have to do this until they went to build the house, right? This is a house that exists there already,
Yeah,
right? So it's not like they're building a house like the other situation. They were building a house.
I thought,
This-
don't you want to build another house back, or you're adding on to that?
No,
I'm
we want to
confused
build
now.
another house.
Yeah, they want to build another house, Michael, behind, like
When would
farther
it-
back.
when would
Because
that happen?
this house is right on the road.
Mhm.
Right.
yeah, both the little houses are right on the road.
Are you in, are
So
you,
similar to the previous one that I also own the property behind this one as well. I mean, my family owns the property.
are you intending to live in the older house while the other one's being built or not?
I guess it depends on how livable it is. And I actually scheduled to have an inspection tomorrow. But yeah, that would be ideal that we could be there. We hope the construction won't take that long, although now I understand that it's taking a lot longer because everybody's so busy. But yes, we would like to be able to live in one of the existing houses while we're constructing the new house.
I really like the idea of making the older house an accessory dwelling just because of its age and
Yeah.
giving it less wear and tear is really, will give it longer life.
Mhm.
Longer even than it's already had.
Well, it's good for another 100 years, I'm sure, with some loving care.
I've been in that, in the larger of the two older houses many times, and it makes for a beautiful home.
Mhm.
Now, I haven't been in it recently, so it may need, a little patchwork here and there or something, but
Is
it
the
was
large-
quite beautiful before. What?
Jane, is the larger one the one on what I would call the west side on the,
Yes,
which is the one that the Potters were using, I think, as workspace, and they were
right.
living.
But before that, Don and his previous wife used it as their primary dwelling, and that's when I spent a lot of my life there.
Oh,
Small world.
well, I have to talk to you about the history then.
Well, I don't know it that well, but
Recent history. But at what stage does the primary residence, because there's no new primary residence, at what point would we need to then have it deemed would that be after? Would we be able to get a building permit for the new house with
That's when you would need this agreement in place at that point, correct, Drew?
Well, maybe not, given that these buildings already exist. So right now they are the primary. They build another house and that becomes the primary when it's done. Why do you even need a 2-year limit on it? Because these buildings already exist. You don't need a permit to build them or live in them.
right.
But you
And
need a
Warren-
permit to,
Warren-
you would need a permit to build a house that would be bigger, because if it's the primary house, you're technically building an accessory structure, which is going to be bigger than allowed, because technically,
Correct. And
if they're living in this house, they can only build something that's like, whatever, 1,000 square feet or 1,200 square feet or something like that. Right?
regardless, if we're gonna build two houses, one's gonna be a principal, one's gonna be an accessory. So you guys are gonna have to approve the accessory and, the details that'll be worked out later, but it's gonna require planning board approval to do.
Right.
But they're
Yeah,
not
but
they're not going to build two houses.
Yeah, they're only building one new building.
Have to.
Right,
They're
but they
going to
have a
have
house
to.
or existing, so they're looking like if you have a house and you go to build something else on your property, that's normally going to be an accessory structure, but it's not. They would be going for a permit that would be out of out of the zoning because it's too big to be an accessory structure.
Yeah.
So that at that point they would need a ruling. We would have to have the resolution in place and then Drew could then issue that building permit with that agreement that they finish it X number of years and et cetera, I guess. But yeah. So, I mean, in summary, obviously this is just a preliminary talk about it.
Right.
And you saw the last application, you can probably assume that, if done in the same manner, you're likely to get approval for that.
So what do we need, at what stage do we come back to you to get the accessory dwelling approved after we have full plans for the new house?
Probably,
Yeah, you
makes
own-
sense.
plans
Okay.
and own the
Well,
property.
I guess it's when you're ready to apply for your building permit.
Right.
Okay,
You'd want to give yourself the largest envelope to get it done too. Within
Right.
that, if there's going to be a time period on it.
okay. All right, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right.
Good
Well,
luck.
thank you. And no one, by the way, no one, I guess Kate has a minor, it's not really a conflict, right, Kate? You're able to make decisions on this without, and no one else has any conflicts on this? I know
Other
everyone
than Warren.
in that area anymore.
I mean, I guess, Tracy, do you feel comfortable enough with us just saying like, I mean, 'cause you haven't actually, is this weighing whether you're going to purchase it or not? Or,
Well,
I mean, I guess I would want you to feel comfortable enough with us just saying, well, probably.
well, I realize that's all you can say right now. And before we are wanting to sign the contract, but this was sort of a big question mark. And I haven't heard anything that suggests that it's going to be impossible. So this is really the feedback that we were hoping for. And anything else, I think we can just work out in the plans.
I would say that's accurate.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Warren, this actually brings up an interesting.
I'm sorry.
What? Can you hear me?
Got to talk louder. My
Oh.
hearing isn't that great.
So how about now? Can you hear me?
That's good. Much better.
It brings up an interesting point. Like, as the applicant said, she would have liked to have made conjoined those properties and made a larger parcel, but the zoning discourages that. As we go forward, when we look at different, zoning issues, as well as, now we have this workaround for this. This is something we're gonna have to look at with that. And also, like, I'd like to see bigger parcels put together and kept together, as opposed to, encouraging.
Michael, I have a question on that. Tracy mentioned that one of those buildings would become a studio, which is not a dwelling. Would that make a difference in our interpretation?
It might, but I'm talking about as we look at zoning
Right, yeah,
going forward. I'm not talking necessarily to this application, but
gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'd have to think about that. Just talk about what we're trying to encourage, what we're trying to discourage.
It might be an issue that we might want to take a look at if we do any amendments to the zoning law. Merging the two properties, there are a lot of considerations from the property owner standpoint also. Having two properties and not merging them means that if you want to sell one of them, you don't have to come in for subdivision approval. So there's pluses and minuses, in each approach.
But but looking at it from a comprehensive plan, community planning, if we have people wanting to put together parcels and then it's, they're being.
Yeah, see, in this case, it's in a 5-acre zoning district, right? Is that true? That's in the 5-acre
Yes.
zoning?
Yes.
So these are not substandard lots.
Right.
Some municipalities have provisions which require when you own two contiguous properties and one of them is substandard, that they have to be merged.
Mm.
There's a name for that. I can't recall what the name is off the top of my head. But that's something we may want to look at to try to eliminate substandard lots in the town. I don't think we have that provision in our zoning law, but I could take another look.
It would be pretty unusual to do something like that here, since zoning came in so recently. We have a lot of odd substandard lots throughout the town. Be hard to do something to eliminate them, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember whether we had discussed that when we created this amendment to the zoning law or not, but it's something we might want to consider. And can't remember the name for it, but there's a zoning, there is an official name for that requirement. So, and I'm assuming we don't have it in our law because I think we decided not to put it in there.
It's just food for thought. That's all it came to me.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
If I could just interject, we really have no interest in selling off one of the parcels, or we would love to be able to combine them. And I was told that from a tax perspective, it would be beneficial to merge them.
Not giving you legal advice. Yes, probably. Might want to talk because of the way properties are assessed.
Yeah.
When you have an individual lot, there's an automatic assessment to the building lot that increases the assessment on a separate lot. When you merge them, then it becomes accessory acreage rather than principal. So you're correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that's for the future, obviously. But thank you very much, Tracy. And,
Thank
good luck
you.
with your endeavors.
Good luck.
Next up is discussion. I would like to have maybe Drew can tell us because what is going on with the Willow Roots situation that some of us have heard about, perhaps, and has been quite the talk in town at the moment. So,
Sure.
Not heard
It's my understanding that on North Main Street, Nelson Zayas and his wife have opened up some type of food pantry, taking food donations. And then on Saturdays, they're dispersing this food. They have an entrance on North Main Street, and there's also a driveway. It's a through property. It goes from North Main Street over to Carla Terrace, which is a very small cul-de-sac, private dead end, kind of, not private, public, but dead end road. And I guess there's a lot of traffic on the Carla Terrace now because I guess what they're doing is, and I haven't seen this, only from the complaints I got, cars are coming in North Main Street, going through the property, and then exiting off Carla Terrace. So there's 20 to 30 cars on a Saturday, and that's a lot of traffic for this cul-de-sac street. So I got this complaint, and then it was brought to my attention that when the planning board approved the tax business that's also on his property of Nelson Zayas's, that it was an agreement that they would not do that. There would be no through traffic. And that as a condition of the approval, he would put up a sign that it was a private driveway, and there would be some sort of temporary blockage, even as minimal as his car, so that tax customers would not drive through the property. So I sent Nelson a letter just stating that, because as a matter of enforcement, I have no way to say who's there for food, whether that's allowable or not, and who's there for tax business. And so I just felt it was only fair, considering the agreement that he made with the planning board, that he didn't use the property as a through drive. And that's where we're at right now.
Except that right now there is no official proceeding before the planning board that would deal with this. Am I right? I mean, you have a complaint that you've heard. I'm inclined to agree with the result because it makes sense, obviously, but I just wonder procedurally whether we've got something we can deal with here.
Well, the planning board made the condition of approval of the tax business that it would not be used as a through drive. So I mean,
no, you're right there. I remember that, but we don't have any enforcement power, I don't think.
Correct, Peter. Correct.
You're the enforcement guy, Drew.
That's what I'm doing. I'm enforcing that condition.
I also think like at that meeting years ago, like they kind of came up with that agreement just because, I mean, the Zayases and Sheila, because I don't know, they didn't want to have a big conflict at the time, and it wasn't going to be, the tax business wasn't the same thing as what they're kind of doing now. I don't know. It was a very like, does anyone else remember the meeting? It was a little tense.
Exactly. It was more just.
Like, we don't want this to be an issue. Let's
This is
just
not
come
an
up with
issue, right?
Yeah.
They were saying we're only going to be seeing one tax client at a time.
Right, it was years ago. This Willow
I
Roof
agree.
wasn't even thought of.
Right.
Right. And he does have an address on that side, and there is an apartment building, and he does have access to Carla Terrace. He has a driveway there.
I'd like to say that I think what they're doing for the community is a wonderful service. And, but for the grace of God, all of us during these days might need a service like that. So I would hate to do anything that would impede his providing this service to the community.
I will speak for the town board. The town board is very interested in having this service continue through this COVID period. And my understanding is that the period of the distribution is an hour, 1 hour. And it enables the people getting the distribution to go through very quickly and get exactly what they want. They have a process set up. It's another issue as to whether that really would be permitted or should have been reviewed, and whether Willow Roots should even be there. But at this point in time, I know the town board is very interested in having this service continue at this time.
Well, yeah, how can we not? I mean, we go over there just to drop off some canned goods from PEX, but it's an absolutely invaluable service that perhaps society in general ought to be providing, but it isn't, and the Zayas's are, and that's just about the most wonderful thing I can imagine that ought to be encouraged. I mean, we do have very needy folks in this town, as everybody knows, and it's a wonderful thing that they're doing. And yes, sometimes it causes traffic if there are a lot of poor people that need food.
There isn't, I drove by both ends of it today just to see what I could see about how large a turnaround there would be in there. And if you had more than a couple of cars at one time, cars trying to come in, you'd have a hard time turning around and going out. So
well, yeah, they have a narrow driveway. I don't recall you could turn it at all, but on the other hand, you can park on the street at the curb and go get your stuff. You don't anchor planning. We don't want anchor planning. This is
a lot of these people who are elderly, I would consider it, a hardship than be parking on the street and walking all the way in and carrying it back.
I have a question. So how many volunteers are there, like, giving out this food usually? Like, I have not seen this operation.
Volunteering on Saturday, but it's usually maybe 10. They have tables set up with different things, so they even have like pet food or whatever they get set at different tables, and you drive through, and if you need something, you say it and somebody brings it to your car.
Okay.
So it's like a drive-through, so that you're not in contact with everybody, and you're not
So, Kate, it would be
get what you need.
It would be unlikely for that to be able to be brought out to like the curb at Main Street then.
Not efficiently.
Not as easily, no, obviously. I understand that. Okay, fair enough.
I have a question. I don't know if this is Warren or Drew. When you have first of all, Drew, they have a driveway permit for Carla Terrace for the apartment, correct?
Correct.
Now, what do driveway permits entail? Like, does it beyond just you have access at that that location to the road? It doesn't matter what the driveway does after it leaves the road, correct? That is not under the purview, or is that? When you get
it's my understanding that the driveway permit, at least town permits, are just for access. They check them for drainage, they check them for visibility, sight distance, things like that. But I don't think that there's a use issue, at least on a use like that. Maybe on a state DOT road, they probably look at them differently. But I think this is just a basic driveway permit.
Right. So if connecting the two drive, it doesn't, that's never handled by a driveway permit, whether if they were to connect the driveway from one street to another.
It's a driveway permit only deals with the access point on the public road. But can I ask a question? Maybe we can cut to the chase on this. So, Drew, did you give them a notice of violation or stop work?
What I actually asked him to do is to honor the agreement he made with the planning board.
Okay, so nothing formal has been, so
I have a question for you, Warren. Is there any way that the planning board can somehow amend that condition?
Yeah, I was just going to suggest there are different ways of approaching this. This is something that we're just going to have to, most municipalities now are dealing with these ad hoc temporary variations from our zoning law to allow these types of uses. We've counted it in Hyde Park and some other municipalities. We could amend our zoning law to allow for this. That would be time consuming, and I'm not sure it's necessary. But assuming that this is something the town wants to encourage on a temporary basis and sort of look the other way and allow it, as long as it's not creating any detriment to neighboring properties, he can just come back before the planning board and you can amend that initial approval to allow this to happen without going through a big formal expensive process, and maybe waive the application fee or something like that because of the nature of what they're doing.
Well, I have a question. Does he not need a special use permit technically to be operating in this thing?
Technically, this is something that I don't know. Do we have a provision on our zoning law for temporary uses? I don't recall.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you might want to look. Technically, yeah, he might. This is something you might want to have to get approval for, but zoning enforcement is sort of not discretionary, but you don't know. You sort of look the way on some violations because they're not harmful to the community. This is something that I would suggest the town permit as long as it doesn't get out of hand, and just advise him to come before the planning board, put himself on the agenda, and we'll do a very quick amendment to the original. If you could send me the original approval. I remember this happening, and I seem to remember that the approval was quite informal, if I recall, because I had raised some issues with the possibility of there being problems with this, and I think the temper of the board was that they were just going to allow the tax service. So it may be that it wasn't even a condition of the original approval, but if you could send me that, and maybe we could take care of it at the next meeting and just allow this to happen. If it gets out of hand and he's really disturbing neighboring properties and it's becoming, a danger, then we may have to look at it more closely.
Okay.
Well, to play devil's advocate for a minute, because everyone's rightly pointing out the value and the necessity, especially at this time, for the help that they give to the community. If you have a house on the street, you have little kids, you used to be having, and pets, and you used to be having a dead end street, and now, there's somewhat, moderate traffic coming through there. I definitely could see like some concern being raised in parents and owners' eyes. I would hope that we could all somehow find a way to get to a place where everyone can, live with each other and be able to deal with the situation, especially during the COVID period. I went and I talked to Dara about this the other day when I heard about it, and she thought she was going to check. So it's not official. I'm not speaking for her or making it official, but she said that she could possibly get a patrol car down there during that hours to make sure no one's going fast and monitor the traffic or whatever on Carla Terrace. And if it's only limited to that, call it, it's an hour, but say with some buffers on 2 hour, 10:30 to 12:30 on Saturday, and if during the other times the volunteers or anyone else that comes just uses the Main Street entrance, I'm hoping that makes everyone able to live with it, or if not.
Well, theoretically, there could be a tenant in that apartment building that's on the Carla Terrace side who has a family with 2 cars and going in and out, just running errands all day, and you'd have the same thing. And, I understand this is more because it is not people who live there, but still, it does seem like,
Yeah, I think that we can come to an agreement. I just would also, like, before we came to such a kind of like strict, I would limit it to maybe like Saturday mornings or something where it's not, you have this 2-hour time period, just so we don't come back again where the person is saying they were only supposed to be there between 10 and 11 or something like that. But I think that it's not a bad idea to restrict the number of days a week or whatever it is. But I guess again, you'd have to have Nelson and Lisa come and just kind of come up with something that works for
I
them.
think that's a good, is have them come to the meeting and explain what they do.
Right. We can
And
discuss
how
this.
much traffic and how much time goes through,
We can discuss it at the town board. I'm sorry. We could discuss this at the town board meeting tomorrow night, but there might be something in one of the governor's orders that may cover and allow the town board to issue some sort of, we under the governor's order, we permitted a restaurant in Hyde Park to do takeout and drive it. We might be able to do, I might be able to find one of the orders that would cover the town board allowing this by resolution. So we can discuss that tomorrow night too.
And, maybe the town board could approach the neighbors on Carla Terrace and explain to them that this needs to happen for neighborly humanitarian reasons during this period. And that they just really should understand that and be aware of the hours that it's operating and be cautious about it.
And point out that Carla Terrace is a public road.
Right.
Yeah, the owner's got to cooperate too and control this so that it doesn't become a nuisance to neighboring properties. So
How many neighbors are on or houses are on Carla Terrace? Do you know? 6 houses?
6 or 7. I
Okay.
was on it today, so.
It's like 8. Yeah, it's like
8?
at least 4 on each side, at least. Yeah.
Okay. And we're talking about, maybe 20 people driving through. They're not honking their horns. They're not riding motorcycles. And you know what I mean? Or they're just driving through, correct?
Right.
That's right.
Kate, this is really year round, right? I mean, it's not just through COVID, isn't it? It's every Saturday, right? Or whenever they have pickup.
I don't know when they.
I know that it has increased quite substantially because of COVID.
Right.
The number of cars that are being serviced, the number of people being serviced has increased substantially.
But long before COVID, the poverty rate in this town was fairly high. So they could have a lot of business for the rest of our lives.
And it's not like it's gonna just disappear. Like we're gonna be dealing with these effects, with the increased poverty and food insecurity.
Right. No, I agree. It's just that it's been there for a while.
Right, before COVID.
Before COVID. So.
Well, something we'll take a look at the town board level and see what our approach is. It may be that we should think about amending our zoning code to allow these types of temporary uses of property. And that's something that we could do if we had to, so.
I guess if it's temporary, like Vicky said, it doesn't seem very temporary, It seems like it's been there like for at least a year.
Well, I think in reality, it is a use that has not been specified for the location. That's, I think, a reality.
Right.
But we do know that the food pantry at the church is busy, but that's only one Saturday out of the month. So there's a definite need.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
all right,
yes, Warren, thank you.
I'm gonna leave. Sarah, see you tomorrow night.
See you tomorrow.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Well.
Warren.
Drew, there's nothing else going on?
Oh,
think?
I did want to mention to the board, if you have just a moment.
Sure.
I've been in communication with the new owners of Duels, and they're preparing site plan and uses for a lot of the buildings. They are looking to kind of repurpose, renovate the way station, keep it as a way station. And they are looking to do some work on that. And I said, I didn't think there'd be any issue with doing some renovations on that building, understanding that, that you will do some kind of review and approval, hopefully, of a comprehensive site plan. But I mean, at this point, they can certainly work on the building to shore it up and make it weather tight, just for the need of the building.
No.
But so if you guys see somebody working there, that was the intention. But I think there's going to be great things happening on that property.
Are they the people who want to do the soccer program there?
No.
Oh.
Now I have to recuse myself from that because that's my boyfriend.
What's the game plan?
I'm really busy this week.
I'm really excited about the way station. That's really,
Me too. It's so cool.
I love the way station.
Yeah, it's going to be good. What's the game plan? I don't really know. I mean, I've had some conversations, and the owner was kind of like had a million ideas, and now they've hired a company to come in and work on the site plan. And I think it's going to be a good step for them because they're going to get them a little focused and really start to come together with the property. So I think good things are really happening.
Great.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good. All
Okay,
right. Thank
everybody
you,
have a
Drew.
great night.
You too.
You too, Drew.
So next up is the August minutes. Did everyone get to review the minutes? I think there was a couple of small changes, correct? Anyone have anything else?
Just thanks to Trish for typing all that lengthy stuff.
No problem.
Well, that's her job.
If I could have a motion then to accept the August minutes.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the minutes of August meeting have passed. And I don't know, there's nothing else, correct, Tricia?
Nope.
My screen went down.
No other business?
The only other thing going on, I don't know if anyone got to do any training. I mean, we're gonna have to obviously be lenient this year. They promised like more than they've been sending out the county. They've only had a couple of things that even people could sign up for.
Well, you guys, you're going to get a letter that I'm sending out about a virtual community forum next week, and it should be very interesting. It's put on by the Tri-County group on housing, and they're going to be looking at the impacts of COVID on the affordable housing issues in the area. And I'm sure that you could get at least an hour out of that. And you'll get an invitation to it.
Great, thank you, sir.
Don't they have to be approved in some way to issue training credits?
I don't know. It would seem to me it would be perfect.
The town board can approve
I'll
them.
approve it.
All right, in that case.
The county basically said at the start of this to just keep track, document what you go for, and even online, whatever, and then just keep track of it. I went to this is what it was about, and that's supposed to stand.
I'm sure any of the online things would be fine this year, for sure.
Okay, so with that, does anyone have anything else? If I can have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Everyone, thank you very much, and
Bye.
have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.